The Grace Hour, my testimony, my praise. It's 8 o'clock. We're going to give a little time so our audience can try to get on the line. Um, and please remember to share when you get on the line. Share to a friend, share on your page, because it's going to be an awesome night. Thank you. My hiding place, my safe refuge, my treasure, Lord, you are. You're my friend and my kin, anointed one, most holy. You are holy, my friend and my kin. Lord, you are anointed one, most holy. We'll give you 5 more minutes before we zoom into the show. Remember to share to a friend, share on your page, invite somebody that you know that you don't know. Okay. Again, welcome to GH Gospel Radio. It's Grace Hour, my testimony, my praise. My name is MABEL NIKOI, and I am going to be your host for today. Today's program is the first ever for this awesome journey that we're about to begin. So Grace Hour came about because God placed this in my heart. This has been a burden in my heart that I've been trying to run away for a long time. But you know, how long can you run? Sometimes you can run and run and run, but you don't have a choice. When the Lord said you have to do it, you have to do it. And so today, we're officially bringing to you Grace Hour, which is going to be more about talking about awesome testimonies that God has done in the lives of special people. A lot of the times when we're talking about testimonies, talking about the glory of God and talking about the power of God, people think it's a cliche. A lot of people think this God thing that we talk about is a cliche. Oh, yeah, the miracles were done in the Bible. But hey, no, God is still in the business of doing miracles. God is still revealing himself in the lives of his people. And this show is going to be bringing to you great and awesome people, people that have had real life experiences and have allowed God reveal himself through their life experiences. You're going to be really blessed. This program is all about bringing deliverance, blessings, and bringing liberations to the people of God. And on today's show, which is season 1, episode 1, we're so honored. Ooh, I can't wait to hear this lady speak, but we are so honored today to have such a great, a talented, an awesome lady, Miss Mary OWUSU AGYEMAN. A lady that loves the Lord and won't stop at anything until she sees the name of Jesus being praised. Miss Mary, welcome to Grace Hour. Uh,
Thank you. Thank you.
so we're gonna hand it over to you. Miss Mary, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Of course, my name is Mary. Currently in Dallas, Texas. I'll say Midlothian, Texas. Married with three kids, three girls, and a faithful husband. I thank God for him. Um, Back to you, Miss Mabel.
So, Miss Mary, I heard you say you're married to a lovely husband with a beautiful three kids. Can you tell us your experiences with marriage in terms of your childbearing?
Of course. So marriage, honestly, there's so much when the term marriage, when you think about the term marriage. Oftentimes we go through these marriage counseling, and nobody, I can boldly say, marriage counseling does not prepare us at all. It is a matter of just stepping a foot in the game and realizing what all comes with it. Um, Honestly, with the three kids, each one comes with a story and a blessing.
Mm,
I remember when I was pregnant with my oldest, when I first got married. After my first month, there were a few people around me that kept asking, when are you going to get pregnant? As if pregnancy is just a shot or a pill that you take
mm,
and, your belly just shows. But it takes more than that.
tell
It
me.
takes more than preparation and also making sure your body is ready. Got pregnant, I can boldly say during the course of, people asking me, when is the baby coming? When is the baby coming? I was pregnant. I didn't even know. So I remember we took a trip down to Texas Health in Euless, only to be told that I was pregnant and I should expect to miscarry the baby.
Mm,
You know, and we left. It was my husband and I. We left the emergency room, and at that time, I think my parents were either at Easter convention. I don't remember exactly, but they were not at home. So I immediately called my dad and I told him everything. When I told my dad what was going on, he was, very supportive and all that. But my sister happens to be with them at that time. So I guess after the conversation, their first word out was she pregnant before the wedding? I guess to them the pregnancy was too quick. But
mhm,
here's the thing. You can get, like it doesn't take years for you to get pregnant if
mhm,
everything is intact. Long story short, my sister called me and she was like, I know you were, I know this is going to hold. Just keep your faith going. And I do remember when I got married, my husband gave me a white Bible customized and I slept with it I think it was on a Friday night. So I
mm.
slept with it that Friday night, that Saturday night, Sunday night, and Monday, I finally got to see an OB. I did a walk in, I just called them and they told me to go ahead and just come in. When I went in, I met with I think my I don't remember, but I first came in contact with a male, either MA or a nurse,
Mhm,
and this was actually I went to see my PCP, and this was my PCP that I used to go to while I was in school.
mm,
So when I met this guy, I told him everything that's going on and how I'm expected to miscarry the baby based on what I was told at the emergency room. Mind you, I went to the emergency room with bronchitis. I didn't go in for pregnancy.
mhm,
So for them to tell me this whole pregnancy thing was a shocking. Anyways, so he did all my labs and he came back and said, we'll give you a call. but I need you to pick uh, an OB to go see in the next few days. So whilst we were sitting there, he recommended Omega OBGYN in Arlington, and we called them together. And then as I was walking out, he said, "Whatever you believe shall come to pass."
Wow.
This is somebody I never spoke to him about, how I slept with my Bible and all that. So then I went and saw the OB. Within a few days, they called back. My PCP's office called back and said, "Hey, your labs were clear. Your progesterones are going up compared to what we've seen from the emergency room."
Mm.
So then I saw my my OB within I think it was 2 weeks. So I was told to take all the necessary pills, and I did. And long story short, baby was healthy. But here's the thing: I ended up having this baby around 7 months and 2 days. And it was during Ebola season. And I saw the baby for 2 minutes. I had a ruptured membrane, went to the hospital, cried. And, we were expected to be there till January, but unfortunately, the baby came the next day. Baby went to NICU, and this is a baby that I was supposed to miscarry within a few days.
Yes, ma'am.
And it held till 7 months, 2 days. Is the baby going to survive? That was another story. So we went to NICU, and my husband and I noticed that um, everybody, all the kids that we saw or met were in incubators, right?
Okay.
But except my baby.
Hmm.
And this other baby nested my baby. So my first question was, what's going on? They were like, "Oh, she's fine. We just have to keep her for, a few days and just to, run labs and da 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 da." Long story short, I left, came home. Baby was still at the hospital. And the question that, I kept questioning God, like, why is my baby still alive? Labs, everything was normal. And here's the thing: they told me the baby was going to be there for a few months, about maybe a month or two. And she came on a Thursday. By Monday, I had the baby at home.
Praise the Lord.
And second baby was a miracle as well. Baby, it took 6 months to, finally get pregnant again. Um, had a lot of stories down the road, but she was a successful pregnancy. Um, had her, came home, everything was fine. But here's the catch: after the second pregnancy,
Okay.
I had about 4 MCs, and I use the word MC because I feel comfortable just, cutting it short,
Okay.
miscarriage.
Okay.
Um, I was in grad school, so of course I was stressed. Um, I just remember that my first one, I was about 4 months into the pregnancy, and
And you miscarried it at 4 months.
yes, I basically went to work, and I kept calling the doctor, "Hey, I'm spotting." She said it's normal. Said none of my pregnancies, like I didn't have that experience. So then I decided to go to an urgent care emergency room, and that's when the lady said there's no heartbeat, but they wanted me to see my my OB. So, fast forward, so my OB, "Yes, you miscarried." I started asking all these questions, as in, "God, but why?" But here's the thing: it was a few days to Thanksgiving, and
Mm.
I had a DNC. I was scheduled for an immediate DNC because there were some complications.
Okay.
But during my DNC, I noticed that they could not control my pressure because I was scared. I have 2 babies at home, and all I'm thinking about is, what if I don't make it? At that time, the devil tried. You get these what ifs,
Of
and
course.
um, I've also, invited so many people coming over for Thanksgiving. But one thing I said was, "Lord, this is going to be you and me. We're going out, we're going in, and we're coming out strong."
Amen.
Next thing I know is I'm back in my room from the DNC. And I remember Kofi was sitting there dozing off. And the first question I asked him was, "Are you okay?" And he looked at me like I should be asking you that question. But, it's a matter of faith. Even the doctor that performed the DNC said it. He said, "I don't know, Miss Mary. There's something about you that, we could not, control your pressure, but the moment you just said God is you and me, we're going in and we're coming out strong." You kind of dozed off because they gave me, I think, um, whatever medication IVs they gave me was not working at first. At first, they couldn't find a vein.
Mm.
And, like my body was resisting everything at that moment. But when it was because there was this fear that the devil had planted in me at that
Amen.
moment.
Mm.
But the moment that, I said that word, honestly, I did not pray. It wasn't like a long prayer, but I just said, God, it's you and me together. And, everything worked out fine. Came back, and, I just had to keep on my big woman cap because you have folks coming over. Came out really strong. I was able to, still pull people together for Thanksgiving. But that Friday, we went to church for some gospel event. And as I was walking in, I just had a DNC. I'm still going through the pain and all that. My husband just decided to take me to church. And I'm still going through it, but I'm putting up a smile for,
Mm.
just to feel good.
Mm.
And as we were walking in the church, one lady, and I still remember this lady's face and everything that just happened. The first question was, "Hey, Mary, that better not be with third baby. Well, better man, no, meaning that when is the third born coming? We want a boy. You and who? You and my husband." So at that moment, I
Help us,
had
Lord.
I had this anger in me. I just wanted to cry. And the first thing I said was, should I curse her out? I wanted to curse her out. I wanted to call her all kinds of names. I wanted to punch her in her face as well.
Mm.
Because one, this is I just came out of an emergency DNC.
Sure.
Mentally, I'm not stable. I still had questions for God, although I went in and said, "God, this is you and me." And I felt like during that moment, every time that I gave the devil a chance, he planted some fear, some questions, unnecessary, panic. So then I just put on a smile and said, God's timing is the best. When
Mm.
I sat down,
Reluctantly, you said
yes,
God's time is the best.
hmm
Okay.
I
Okay.
just went and sat down. At that time, I was like, I'm still grateful. I have two beautiful girls. If anything, he has blessed me with two healthy babies, although each one of them comes with a story. So I sat down and pretended as if nothing happened. But as church was going on, I walked out. I had so many questions for God. I was crying nonstop. So my husband, I guess my mother-in-law also noticed that. So she rushed down at the hallway and she was like, "What's going on?" And my husband was like, "I know we didn't tell you guys, but this is what's going on." And she was like, Mary Pa, so she kind of gave me a pep talk. And she was like, "Just wipe your face, just go sit down, everything is going to be okay." And there's something about that woman. Up till now, she never came back and said, "So what happened?"
Mm.
After that conversation. She never came back and tried to question me as to when did it happen? Did you have a DNC? And I applaud her for that.
That one.
So
Bless
I
your heart.
started, after that DNC, it took a really big toll on my body. My body changed. And I felt like I was pregnant, only to find out I had leftovers.
Wow.
Yeah. So I went in with my sister in law after 7 months. Everything happened in April 2018.
So Miss Mary, okay, let me ask you a question. You went back after 7 months of DNC. You had remains from 7 months DNC. Okay, okay,
So after the DNC was performed in April, by August, I noticed that when it was time for my cycle, I will spot but nothing, but I go through the pain. So I went back to see my OB. I had done so many sonograms and scans, and they really couldn't figure it out. So I referred myself to a fertility doctor because you got to know your body. So the first scan he did was, oh my gosh, you still have leftovers. And I'm looking at him like, leftovers. I had leftovers, I had scar tissue, you name it. Excuse me. So then he was like, and you're still alive and healthy. Like, just at that moment, he wasn't trying to scare me, but he was, shocked that nobody, all the scans, and I went to big hospitals for these scans. Nobody saw it. So what he did was, could this be a growth? And I'm looking at him like, what kind of growth? He was like, sometimes after DNC, you can have cancer growth that might. I was like, no way, Raj, please don't go there with me. So then, his first thing he said was, are you a believer? And I'm like, yes. He was like, okay, we're still going to take it to the lab, but let's rebuke everything in the name of God. And Raj will ask you in his office if you would like for him to pray with you.
and is this your doctor?
Yes, fertility doctor.
Oh,
And we said our little prayer. And this guy is Indian, okay?
okay,
And I like male doctors. I don't like females. They're too rude.
okay.
So we said our little prayer, and I went in with my sister-in-law for that procedure. It was a day procedure. And things like that, I don't take my husband because, one, he's not into those things. You can explain to him as many as you want, he's not going to get it. Just pull him when it's time for the procedure, he will go. But my sister-in-law and I went, and we came out strong. And then she was like, "Oh my gosh, Mary, I can't believe you didn't cry." And I'm like, "Cry for what?" It's just a day surgery. And she was like, she was shaking for me. And I was like, when God is with you, you
Mm,
don't feel it. You just
come
come
on.
out like nothing happened. And I came out, drove my car back home. She was like, "Do you want me to drive?" And I was like, "Dude, you only have your permit. You can't drive my car." So when we were walking out, her first question to the doctor is, "Can she get any pain meds?" And Raj just looked at me and said, "Mary, you'll be fine. Just take Tylenol." And I think what we also have to take into consideration is when you're choosing your fertility or OBGYN, you don't just go for anybody.
Mm,
You have to read reviews.
okay,
So long story short, I prayed. I kept praying. I started going to we do have a miracle. We did before had a miracle service, and I prayed, and it's funny how when I ask God for something, I pray over and over again. But when things like these, because remember the remains or the leftovers were taken to a lab in Austin. But I only said one prayer, and I said, "This is gonna come out, and nothing is gonna be. It's not gonna be a growth. It's not gonna be cancer." So then I'm waiting. They told me within 2 weeks results should come in. Within 2 weeks, I was pregnant because during the procedure, they did a dye. They did a dye test as well just to push everything out. Yes, and found out I was pregnant. Then I called him, and he was like, "Come on, let's run labs." We we did all the labs, and bam, there it is. That was the second time. He was like, "I think everything is going on because of your progesterones." And I'm like, "Is that what's causing the MCs?" He was like, "Yes." So by the time I went in, did the labs, he told me it was not gonna stay, one because we just did um, the test, the dye test, and my body is still recovering and all that. Um, did I cry? Yes, I cried. I cried like a baby. And this guy just, I remember when I was crying, he just sat there and said, "Take your time."
Mm.
And I cried for more than 30 minutes. And then when I was done, he said, "Mary, this is not the end. We're going to try again. Just keep up with your faith." So I came home and of course, I told my husband, and he just smiled and said, "But we have two." And I'm like, "I know, but I want a boy." Because, growing up, we were made to believe that boys are valued, and they still keep asking me, "When is the boy coming?" And it hurts my soul because I am done having babies. But what really struck me was the fourth MC. I'm going to just jump from the third to the fourth. The fourth one, honestly, mentally, I wasn't okay.
Mm.
It came to a point that I was so angry every time I saw a pregnant woman.
Oh my God.
Yes.
It
Um,
hit you that bad.
yes.
Okay.
Um, I didn't want to talk to nobody. I would still go to work, go to church. Um, I stopped paying tight. I was like, that's it. And I can honestly say, the devil got me. I became so detached from church, anything church. And
Hmm.
no tithing. Because I think my third pregnancy, I sowed a seed for the pregnancy to hold, and it didn't. But going back, there's a prayer that I prayed in my car. I said, "Lord, I want a healthy baby boy. If it's not healthy, I don't want it." And I miscarried within a few days.
Mm.
This is going back to, thinking about what I said in my car. And I used to pray in my car on my way to work. But the fourth one really got me, honestly. Till that one day, I took off work. And I'm the kind of person that I barely take off. But when I do, it's a serious matter because my husband have so many days that he does all the doctor's appointments. I took off work, woke up in the morning, then I decided to just call in, and I just went on my knees and I started crying and I prayed because at that point the anger had built in me for almost 2 to 3 months.
You had to let it go.
And I just prayed and I cried and I cried and cried and cried and said, "Lord, I know I'm a lost." I mean, at that point, I just felt like I was a lost soul
Mm.
that needed to get back on track. And for about 5 minutes, and usually when my serious prayers don't take 22 hours, 3 hours, I cried and I prayed for 5 minutes, and came back as if nothing happened.
So, Miss Mary, this is a very hmm, this is a very serious story. Through all what you're saying, I keep hearing one thing. You said you had four miscarriages in between your second and your third baby. And there's a lot of women out there that have had miscarriages. There's a lot of women that, and I'm just thinking about you. You had two kids, but yet four miscarriages built so much anger in you, and the devil has so much footstool in your life at a point. So, what would be your message for women that are out there, faithful women, women of faith, women that They've sown seeds. They've gone to church. They clean in the house of God. They sing in the choir. They're into women's ministry. Like they're doing all the right things that we know to do. What is your word for them?
I would say continue what you're doing. Um, have faith, and whilst you're doing that, also get checked out. See
Mm,
a fertility doctor, and never give up. And make sure you're doing your research on who to see, because you don't just see any doctor.
okay.
There's some really, really good doctors out there who are negative. You need someone positive to uplift you. And also, one advice that I'll give is to ignore the ignorance around us.
Okay.
Obviously, those comments are gonna come, but it's up to you how you take it and how you swallow it. Is it gonna stop? No. Maybe we need to, as churches more. Well, let me rephrase this. Maybe more churches needs to educate the members within the church as to, the sensitivity around this subject.
There you go.
um they need to, women, or and majority of these comments comes from us women. We need to be watchful as what we say.
Mm,
You just never know what these women go through. Me, for example, you see me all smiles, will come and do my job and leave, but at the end of the day, you don't know what's going on with me.
you were burning inside.
That's right. Do I feel comfortable sharing? Of course, people who needed to know knew about the miscarriages. Do I need to broadcast it? No, because at the end of the day, we women are our own enemies. It will be used against you.
Mm,
I heard, and this is out of the way. I've heard stories where people will miscarry, or a woman will miscarry, and the first comment is, she has so many abortions growing up.
oh my God.
And that's the problem in our community.
Mm,
Abortions do not cause miscarriages.
mm.
Abortion do not cause it.
Wow.
So we have to be very sensitive towards those people, and accept them the way they are, because you just never know.
So, this, just listening to your story, just it hits me very differently. This particular thing we're talking about hits me very differently because I kind of share in your experience in some way, somehow. You know, you had two kids, but I didn't have any. And it took me quite some few years. Okay. So I really, really agree to what you're saying, and to everybody out there listening. It is never too late. It's never too late. The God that we serve, He's never too late. He's never too early. He's always on time, because it took me a while. I prayed. I sowed seed. I paid tithe. But you're right. You have to seek medical attention. A lot of the times as Christians, we don't want to seek medical attention because we prayed about it. But yes, praying about it's not just enough. You have to, even the word of God says, a faith without works is dead, right?
That's right.
So we have to add works to our faith. So we have to be able to do the prayer and do the spiritual part, but then to also make sure we're doing the medical part. And I love something you said, Mrs. Agyeman. You said you cannot just go for any OBG or any doctor. And I'm so shocked. How many of us have doctors that will hold our hands and pray with us? How many of us Even think about that. Like, okay, I'm going through this situation and, I need this positive person in my life. So if you're on this show tonight, listening to this precious lady, I want you to know it don't matter what your situation is. And this is talking about childbirth, but yours might not be childbirth. Yours must be something else. But the whole idea, the whole purpose is that our God is never too late. He's always on time. He will come through for you. Only if you believe. Only if you have faith. Mrs. AGYEMAN says she didn't say the long prayers, but she had faith. That is the common ground. You believe. I want to ask you another question. So, what would be your advice to people out there that have had these experiences? How should they address the mental torture, like the psychological part of it? How is that? How should they address that?
Your pregnancy has so many goods and bads. And my OB, like, he said, your first 3 months, anything can happen. And when these MCs happens, just know it's not your fault. Another advice I'll give them, those in the same boat as me, is acknowledge when you start blaming yourself, or when you start questioning God, or when you start looking for why me, why this, why that, acknowledge that you have a mental problem.
Mm,
Seek help or find ways to break it. For me, of course, I acknowledged that I had a problem. Was one of the reasons why I was able to acknowledge it was because I was in school studying the same thing.
okay.
So at the end of the day, I had to reassess myself.
Okay.
Is this healthy for me? No. I have a problem. The fact that I had a problem seeing each time I saw a pregnant woman was a problem for me,
Mm,
regardless of who they were. So you have to first acknowledge that miscarriage is bound to happen. It's not just you. There are thousands, millions or billions of women that go through. But because of the society that we're in, we're not able to share. Maybe just talking to somebody can help you overcome it. But the main thing is acknowledging it and bringing it to God
okay.
and having faith that He's going to take care of you. Because
Okay.
for me, when I noticed that I had a problem, I didn't just pick my car keys and said, I'm going to the doctor's office
Okay.
or I'm going to go see a psychologist. One, because I didn't want any mental history on my medical record. So the best thing I can do is, there's the man up there who don't keep records, medical records. Once it's
Hallelujah.
erased, it's erased.
Come on.
So at the end of the day, I felt comfortable talking to God and believing Him that He was going to take care of me. But you know what? That 5 minutes prayer saved me a long medical history, anxiety, depression, you name it. They would have diagnosed me with all kinds of mental health mental um, issues associated with MCs, to the point that they probably would have allowed me to do sessions.
Mm.
But that 5 minutes prayer saved me from all that.
Wow. You know something, audience? Miss Mary just says something. She said, I felt comfortable talking to that man up there. Something that moved inside of me. He said he's that man that does not keep medical records. Oh my God. He's that one that does not keep medical records. So you're saying that to say that if there's anything, regardless of what it is, we need to run to Jesus to talk to him.
That's right. We've done it several times and it has worked.
Wow.
But it won't be easy though.
Okay.
It won't be easy because there's been times that, so many things will come your way, knowing that I think most times the devil knows once you open your mouth, something good is going to come out of it. I
Okay.
remember my second child, she had, so when I was pregnant, they told me whenever she pees, it doesn't flush, right?
Hmm.
So my choices were DNC or keep the baby. Chances are she'll have dialysis within a year. If it doesn't close by itself, we're going to have a quick surgery to, correct it. I told my husband, he said, screw them. I don't believe it.
Ooh.
Yes. Told my dad, he said, let me say a quick prayer, pray for me, and said everything is going to be all right. Baby came, she still had it. We prayed, we did, we had to go through cooks for a whole year. Then when she hit one, that was going to be the judgment day, as in, we're going to go in, do the scan, and if it's not closed, we're going to have to prep for surgery, right?
Okay.
So I learned something, as in, when we go to church and we're praying, if you're holding someone's child and they come for them during prayer, don't hold it against them.
Tell me. Tell me.
I remember during prayers, I went and got my daughter from my mother in law. She's been very helpful, her and my mom. God bless them for that.
Amen.
So when I grabbed the baby, this lady from church rushed me and said, why just this, how they are, like, we're about to pray. She's closer to the pastor. I was like, listen, woman. Then my mom stepped on my foot like, Mary, it's okay, let it go. So then the first thing I told this woman was, oh, she was falling asleep and she's about to drink her milk before she sleeps. Then I walked off. So as we were praying, I tied my baby in my back and I held onto her leg and I told myself, this is it. This is going to be the last trip to Cook's Hospital.
Amen.
And as we were praying, Pastor said, everybody who needs, and the pastor's name is Pastor Entry, by the way, said, all the sick people come to the front. At the end of the day, I wasn't sick. My baby is not sick. But then I'm standing there like, hey, Mary was sworn, you know? So nothing moved me to go up there because I felt like we were healed at that point.
Okay.
So a lady came to me and said, oh, let me help you with your baby. I said, no, let her be at my back. Then, as he was praying for these people in front of the altar, I held onto my baby's leg and I said, if God is going to touch me or my baby, it doesn't matter where we're standing.
Mm. Mm.
So I noticed my baby felt asleep. And usually I don't allow them to sleep around that time. It was, nighttime, around 8 o'clock, 9 p.m. So as we were heading home, I just said, it's going to be funny tomorrow because we're going to walk in there and walk right out. And that's going to be our last trip to Cook's. So I told my
Hallelujah.
sister, and she was like, oh, it's a small procedure. I said, we're not having a procedure.
I like that faith.
Um, Honestly, we went to that appointment, and usually all, because I had been there so many times that I know how they operate. The tech doesn't communicate with you. Everything goes to the doctor, then the doctor calls you, da 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 da. Within 5 minutes into the scan, the guy, he was Asian, he looked up to me and said, what are we here for? So I asked him, don't you see the order that the doctor sent? He was like, yeah, but her everything looks so perfect. I'm not seeing anything. So then I just said, okay, so what do you suggest? We just go? He was like, yeah, but I'm not seeing anything. So, he turned off, well, he told us to just put on her diaper, everything. Then within a few minutes, as I'm dressing the baby, he said, "Miss Mary, can I try one more time?" I said, "Go ahead." Then he did it again. And he was like, "Everything looks so clean. Why did they send you here?" I said, so I asked them,
Oh
"Are
my
you,
God.
don't you see the records?" So we started talking, and he was like, "Wow." First thing he said was, "Is a miracle."
It's a miracle.
Is a miracle because 6 months ago we did it. We had the same results. So what they normally do is they monitor it to make sure it's not getting bigger or smaller.
Okay.
They told me she's not going to gain weight. She's the biggest among all my kids. She's not going to eat. She eat the most. Well, snacks. She eat the most snacks. So, I came home, and when the doctor called, but here's the catch. Usually when you do those scans, right? If it's everything looks good, they don't call you.
Okay.
I was at Walmart shopping. I had eggs in my basket, and I had the the hand baskets, the blue ones. So then I noticed the doctor's office was calling, and I dropped everything. And
Mm.
I noticed that people around me were like, "Are you okay?" And I had on scrubs at that time. I was wearing blue scrubs. And they were like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yes." So I answered the phone, and the nurse was like, "Hey, Mary." Um, I think, what was her name? It wasn't Janice. It was another doctor, but she said, "Miss da 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 da," who was the baby's doctor, wanted me to tell you that she's gonna have to delete that record because we didn't see anything on there. And I'm like, "Well, I just broke these eggs for nothing." I was like, "Okay, just delete it." So I went in. She said, "The findings, we can't seem to, locate nothing based on the results we got. We don't even know why we told you to go back, anyways." So I went back for a follow up. She was sick. And I noticed usually they would print everything for you and you're able to, read back to all the complications
History.
the baby have been getting. And I noticed that it was still showing on there. I was like, "Well, she said she's going to get rid of it. What happened?" They were like, "Well, it's medical records. All she had to do was, I guess, go back and put a note and correct it." I don't know what they call it. You probably know when you put in notes and you go back and you correct it, saying labs came in, maybe there was, whatever
Mm.
it is. So since then, you know, everything just happens for a reason, honestly. And I dance a lot, but I'm also a firm believer, as in when you put your trust in God, He won't leave you in vain. And
Amen.
the key word is having faith and
Jesus.
trusting that He will never leave you hanging.
Mm.
I can boldly say each one of my kids have a story. So I wasn't able to give them a name, like, not that I wasn't able, I never thought about it, but I ended up naming my child Nyameche.
Which is your third child after the
Yes,
promise
I
child.
feel like there's a story to her birth. After all these MCs, I'm able to hold the pregnancy after seeking the help that I needed and also being hopeful that it's going to happen someday. Um, so her name is Nyamiche, by the way.
Wow. So miracles surely do exist.
That's right.
Okay. And right now we just want to open it up. If anybody has a question, you can go ahead and put your questions up and bring your questions in. If anybody has a question, this is the best time for you to put out your question. But while we wait for questions, people of God, miracles do exist. Miracles hasn't ended in the Bible. If you're out there and you're thinking that the miracles they talk about was what Jesus did in the Bible by turning water into wine and opening the eyes of the blind, it just didn't end in the Bible. This is a lady sitting in front of you right here that from her first pregnancy, she was told that she was going to miscarry. But the baby came out healthy, no complications. The second baby was supposed to either be taken out or have all sort of diagnoses that doctors can give. This is another healthy baby. And then 4 miscarriages in between where all hope should have been lost and given up. Because you know what? After 4 miscarriages, what else can happen? But you know something? Father, we thank you. We thank you so much that when we have faith in you, you never leave us nor forsake us. We have one question. So, Ms. Mary, you have a question from Nade BBO. So she said, does miscarriages affect your relationship with your spouse?
Definitely it does. Is it the affection side? No. Let me sit well for this question. So, majority of the time, the problem is coming from us, the women. Guys have a way of showing how they grieve. You know, throughout all my miscarriages, my husband never showed a teardrop.
Mm,
He never, made comments about it. It was just me talking about it. So at the end of the day, the questions I asked myself was, does he care? Or I'm just a number to him, or it's just a number to him. Majority of the time, guys, and I asked him and I was like, you never showed any emotions as if you cared. And I was always on him. So there was always fire in the house. I started it. I didn't think he cared much. But here's the thing, guys are known as, and this is based on research, they're known as a weak vessel when they tear, when there's tears. Well, let me rephrase it. Majority of African men show emotions by being quiet.
that's true.
A teardrop, no, you're
Mm,
never gonna show it. So it's up to us to know the kind of men that we're married to, because one, he's not gonna be crying like a baby like we do. He feels like, or they think they're the stronger vessel to support you during this time.
you're right.
So whatever we go through, always look at it as in we're in this together.
Okay.
Especially the signs that you have to look out for. If he's always going to your appointments with you, he's there during your DNCs. He's listening to your doctor appointments report, or calling you like, "Hey, what happened when you went?" Um, I do remember there was a time that I had an MC and one of the kids needed a diaper change. He didn't know I was cramping at that time because it was the second week after the MC. So to him, I'm okay. The cycle or the bleeding has stopped. And it did. But one thing we didn't know was it was going to be on and off, like you just gave birth, right? This the first time, it was new to us. So I asked the baby to go to the dad's for diaper change. Again, daddy came back. He was tired because I just came back from work and bam, crashed on the bed, took a shower and crashed. There was lack of communication. So when he lost it, he was tired. He was like, I'm tired, this and that and that. At the end of the day, I was pissed. So there was always fire in the house. I came to a conclusion that it's better we communicate more.
Mm,
So if I come home, anytime I had MC, I came home cramping, not feeling good, the first thing I do is notify him, hey, this is what's going on. So when there's no communication as to what you're feeling, sometimes you have to bring up those emotional conversations. Is he going to say anything? It's going to be all right. Let's trust God. That's all they're going to say. Does it mean they don't care? No, they do care. They just have a different way of showing their emotions, right? When I went to the emergency room because my water broke for my oldest one, they told me I was going to stay there till January. I was thinking about Thanksgiving and Christmas. I never want to miss those. So I started crying. I looked up and my husband had his hands in his eyes like this. Was he tearing up? Yes, he was. But he didn't want me to do. I mean, to see him tear up.
Yeah.
So at that point, I was like, oh my gosh, he's crying. Then I was like, what's going on? He was like, nothing. I'm just sleepy. Really? Okay. So what I had to do was, immediately just act like, okay, I'm okay. Even if I have to stay here till January, February, I'm okay because I didn't want to see him like that. So oftentimes it affects the relationship because of lack of communication, and also the man, because especially us, majority of African men don't know how to express themselves emotionally.
Okay.
Maybe the generation coming up.
Okay.
My husband is in the 80s. Does he know how to express himself during these things? No. But I've confronted him so many times that he's like, not that I don't care. It's
So true. So
yes, not
true
that I
of
don't
the
care.
fellow
I
African
do
man.
care. It's just, so you have to find ways to communicate with these guys to find out if they care. Does it matter? Again, it doesn't. The fact that they're still there with you, right by your side, know that they do care.
It means a lot.
And cut off the fights, the
Mm,
arguments, because
mm.
when you're like fighting yourself, as in, does he care or is it affecting my relationship? If you think that is affecting your relationship, as in you're concerned that you're not having a baby and all of that, always think about adoption. There are so many choices out there, so many kids, foster care. To be a mom doesn't necessarily means you have to be pregnant and push or have a C-section.
Come on now.
There are so many ways you can be a mom. Maybe your partner doesn't understand. Maybe it takes, your partner needs an education. Educate them.
Okay. Miss Mary, you have been an outstanding lady for us this evening.
Thank you.
We are so, so honored that you made it for us today. Thank you so much. And to our audience, give a hand clap to yourself. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Thank you for taking your time to come and be a part of this program. Like I said earlier, this is the first of Grace Hour. There's going to be many, 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 many more to come. And just to whet your appetite for next week, we have a lady that we're going to be interviewing. Her name is Queen Emily. Okay. Queen Emily is a lady that has gone through 10 major surgeries, from chemotherapy to an open heart surgery to breast cancer, triple marvelous, wonderful things have happened. And you need to see this lady still having her smile on her face. Guys, the secret is Jesus. When Jesus is at the center of it, ooh, the devil can only back. He can only go around the circle. But when God is at the center of it, there's nothing. There
That's
is nothing. Nothing. And now, as we're about to bring this show to an end, somebody out there, I want you to be encouraged. Be encouraged. Be very encouraged. Be strong. Be empowered. Yes. He didn't promise us that there wasn't going to be battles. He didn't say there wasn't going to be up and downs. But he said he would never leave us nor forsake us. Through it all, we will learn to come to depend upon him. And we're going to be better people and coming out stronger. And remember, God will never give you anything you can handle. Whatever situation you find yourself, you are in it because you have to come out stronger so you can bless somebody's life. I would have never known to encourage somebody if I didn't have a miscarriage. Miss Mary, I did have one too. It's not a funny experience. But God is faithful. And thank you, GH Gospel, for giving us an opportunity to air our program on your radio station. If you haven't liked GH Gospel Radio, please like them, follow them, share them. 24-hour gospel, word of God. We love you, GH Gospel Radio. Thank you, Mrs. AGYEMAN. God richly bless you. Thank you, our fans. God bless you all, and you'll have a good night. Same time next week, 8 p.m. with Queen Emily on Grace Hour. Expect the unexpected. God bless you. Thank you.